Thank you for joining us today for our webinar Functionality in Dynamics GP compared to Dynamics 365 Business Central. Today we will be covering assembly and light manufacturing. My name is Katie and I will be the facilitator today. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will answer questions at the end. Please note that this session will be recorded and posted on our blog as well as shared with you early next week. Now I'd like to hand it over to our presenter today, Don McNulty, who is a solutions architect here at Encore. Don, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Katie. So this morning we're going to talk briefly about assembly and some of the differences between GP and Business Central when it comes to assembling product. And we're going to only talk about simple ones. We're not going to be going into anything that goes into WIP. This is all going to be items being combined together. In my case, what I'll be doing is a headset and things like that. So what we're going to do is, how do you use the bills of materials? In other words, there's two sets. There's a set in GP, there's a set in Business Central, as you would expect. How do I manage the assembly orders once I've got the bill of materials in place? And then a little bit of a comparison, I'll talk about this briefly, is between assembly and kits. So in Great Plains, we have a thing called a kit. And inside GP, as part of a sales order, we can enter a single order, a single item, and it will automatically pull a specific number of other items out of inventory at the time of sale. It never actually exists in inventory. This is not a concept that is available inside Business Central. So anybody who's using kits in GP, what we would end up doing is setting up the automation tool to basically do an assembly order in the background in order to assemble the finished good prior to the sale going through. It works very much the same, but there is an extra step involved. So I just wanted to mention that because I know that we do have some clients who run kits extensively, and they like the fact that it doesn't actually exist in inventory. In Business Central, that does not function that way. So in order to get the rolled up cost, you must assemble the kit first. So you have to assemble it into the finished good, and then we push it into our piece. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on slides. So inside here, I'll just, let me just get out of here for a second, and we'll just move that over to the side. All right, so we're going to start with GP. So inside Great Plains, there's two basic functions that we need to worry about. We have to worry about, well, three actually. There's the item itself. What item is it that I've created? And from there, I also have a bill of materials, which is here underneath cards. And then I have my assembly entry, which is this one here. So underneath my bill of material, I've created a bill of material called a wired headset. And the demo data that I use for both companies is exactly the same. So I have a wired headset in my Business Central, and it has the same parts in it, so we can see the costs of the same. So basically what we do here is I'm taking a single ear headset, which is just a headset that I have in stock, and I'm adding wire to it, a phone cord black. I'm adding 2 phone cord blacks, so therefore it's a 50-foot cord total. So that's what we're going to put into this particular item. So what's going to happen is, as I move through this bill of material, we're going to enter this bill of material in as a assembly order, and we're going to try and pull one headset plus 2 phone cords, and that together will be then combined together into a single item called the wired headset, which we will then push into inventory, which will take the items out of inventory. So that's the goal here. So when I look at my Business Central, which is right here, when I go to my items, oops, I can scroll down to my wired headset, same item. And when I grab this one inside here, I have underneath my related, I have the ability of adding an assembly BOM. So inside this assembly BOM, I get what looks exactly like what we just saw in GP. I have these things inside here. Now inside here, I'm going to take this off because I'm not going to put in timesheets today, but you can put in timesheets to put labor against this, same as you can put service parts against the service in the other thing. I just wanted to show that this is how it would be entered. but I don't need to go through all the timesheet processing and approvals that I would need to do in order to get this to post. So inside here, what I've got is, again, 1 ear and 2 black phone cords. If I scroll across, that's all I've got inside here, and I've set the unit cost here based on the assembly details to $77. So there it is there. Now if I go into my item inside here, when I scroll down here, there's my unit price. So I can make this $100, and that would then change that particular field as well. And this is no different than changing a price list in GP. The item itself it can be sold as an item, and that item needs to be in inventory. So when I look at my at things like the items and things like that, I have the ability to see what I have in stock. So I have items by location. So here we are, item availability by location. So I'm going to go by location inside here, and it shows me all my locations. One of the nice things about Business Central is it shows you all the locations instead of having to look them up one by one. Inside here, you'll see that I have none in stock in the warehouse, and I'm going to do everything in the warehouse today just to make life easy for everyone so that it's all nice and things. You can do this in multiple locations and have different BOMs for different ones and things like that if you wish. But as you can see here, I have no inventory required at all. It's got no projected balance or anything like that. So that's kind of what we've got. And when I look over here and I look at my quantities and sites, and I click on my wired headset, like so, and I do a lookup, and I do a lookup like so, and I grab my warehouse. There it is there. And now in this particular one, I have built 10 already, but I can build more. So I'm going to build a few more in order to allow me to sell one of the units that I'm going to build. And it's telling me what the primary vendor is. I can buy this product as well, just as I can buy the product in Business Central. So the item itself is just an item. It can be bought and sold as an item. So I can go out. There are times where you might say, I'm going to buy this assembled, and there's going to be times when you say, no, I'm going to assemble it myself. Sometimes it's only assembled, and sometimes you buy the pieces already assembled. So that's kind of what we've got sitting here. So as I go through this to run this, when I bring up, when I bring up a wired headset here, so inside here, I've got a number of different pieces up top here. When is it effective? When's it obsolete? Things like that. My stock method, build if necessary, stock and build. And then inside here, I have active and pending. Now I've got an active one, and when I bring up the active one, it brings up this. I can add additional items, just as I can in Business Central. Allows me to add as many different items as I want. I'm keeping it really simple. I got the 2 items. I'm going to take 3 items out of inventory. So this is sitting as my bill of materials. Now, inside Business Central and inside GP, there is functionality that allows you to order product based on demand. The big difference in assembly between BC and GP is that if I order it by demand in GP, if I needed 5 headsets, the system would tell me to order 5 headsets. Not a problem. I need 5 headsets. If I had no single ear headsets in stock, I really need to order 5 single ear headsets as well. I do not get that opportunity in GP. GP does not explode the bill of materials when it does the calculation for what we need to order. Whereas in Business Central, it will say, oh, well, because you need 5 headsets, 5 wired headsets, you actually need 5 one-ear headset single ears. So if I don't have those in stock, it's going to ask me, not only do you need to buy/make 5 wired headsets, but you also, in order to do that, you also need to buy 5 one-ears. And that's a very big difference between the two. One of the limitations of assembly inside GP has been that it does not explode the BOM in order to do that particular calculation. So it's nice to know that as you move from one to the other, that you do gain that functionality so that you can add that at a later date if you require. So then the next thing that I do is I come into here. Let me just go delete on this. And we create a new assembly entry. This is from here. We just hit the assembly entry. And then we come down here, give it a date, which is the date that I'm using. I give it a warehouse because that's where I want to keep everything out of. I've got product in stock. And then inside here, I type in my wired headset. So this is what I want, wired headset. And when I do this, I go on, how many do I want to build? I'm just going to build a single one so I can do the math quite easily. It says new. And if I just go like this, I can save this and it can sit as a header, but there's no indication of components. I have the ability here to release it and not release it. If the not released allows me to put in, it automatically reads the bill of material from the headset and puts it onto the screen. We got 1 and 2, so that's what it wants to do. At this point here, I can now release it. And if I release it, it allocates the product. This is when the reserve of the goods are done. So there it is there. It's been released. And then at this point, if I post this, which I will do right now, I'm going to create a brand new item, which will now put 11 wired headsets in stock. Now let's go take a look at the journal entries that made. So when I go over to my GL and I pop onto my general ledger inside here, and let me just do a quick lookup. There it is there, number 6. Oh, right. I got in my own way. Sorry about that. There we are. So there it is there. So what's happened is it's taken $38.59 out of inventory for the headset and $11.96. Now, the one thing that this screen doesn't show, which the Business Central does, and I will in a second, is doesn't show you the costs. So in order to check to make sure that that is the correct cost, what we need to do is we go to inventory and I go to the item and I pick up my one here and whoops, sorry, go to receipts. I must have FIFO issues. Access one here and I go warehouse. There it is there. And if I scroll down here, these 4 that I've got here, you'll see they're at $38.59. This is where it got it from. There's the 4 sold. And if I was to drill on the 4 sold, you would see, whoops. The quantity sold. And why did it not show up? Did a second ago. Okay. So inside here, this $38.59 is the $38.59 that you see on this side over here. And if I go into here and I go into my ACCS and take my black cord and I scroll down, it is $5.98 each. So there it is there. It's coming out of this receipt layer. $5.98 times 2 is $11.96. So, and then if you add these 2 together, you get $50.55, which if I was to now go to my wired headset, like so, you'll find my wired headset, the last one that I received, which is this one right here, 5055. And if I click on receipt number, it comes back to that exact item number 16 that I was dealing with. So that shows where this product's going from. So it's coming in at $50.55. And it happens to be hitting the same GL code because I got everything set to one inventory code. My raw materials and my finished good are in the same inventory. So I'm taking it out of inventory and putting it back into inventory. Not a problem. So there we go. So that is how GP handles the assembly orders and as such. It's a little more detailed inside Business Central. Here we are here. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong version of that. Okay, so inside, so when I go in, that's the item card. So then when I go into my assembly orders here, and I'm just going to go new, I'll create a brand new one. It's going to automatically grab the next number. The item that I'm going to make is the wired headset. There's the wired headset. There it is there. How many am I going to make? I'm going to make 1. There it is there. Unit price is now set to 100 because as you saw, I changed that. And as I scroll down on the components, when I go down onto these components, each of these components will now show underneath here, $38.59 for that one and $5.98 for that one. So, and again, it's picking up that it's coming from the north site. And I may or may not, I'm going to go back to my warehouse. Like so. I'm going to change the, yep. And now I'm looking at the warehouse just to make sure that I'm in the same location. Again, I can mix and match if I need to and things like that. What department code, what division code, I can change those here. Instead of just having the overlay that is buried in the depths like GP does, you can actually change this on the fly, so you can add this to a different division if you wish. And then you got a GP general posting group if you need it. When I hit the post on this, and I can preview the posting here, so I don't have to actually post this, but I will post. When I actually look at this, it gives me 3 separate entries, 6 entries for the GL and 3 entries for the item and 4 for the value. So let's take a look at these. So inside here, what we have is we have the same idea. We're taking $38.59 out of inventory and putting it into direct cost, and then we're taking $11.96 and putting it into direct cost. Then we're taking out all the direct cost and putting it back into inventory at $50.55. And you'll notice that that $50.55 is exactly the same cost as your $50.55 here. So there it is there. So there it is. It's all set and ready to go. I've hit department 300 on these ones here. I did not hit department 300 on the finished goods, but that's my choice. That's because of the way that I set up my header. So from here, if I look at my ledger entry, when I drill down on the ledger entry, it basically shows me that I'm taking -1, -2, and +1. So I'm taking 1 of these out, 2 of these out, putting 1 of these in. And the costs themselves, $38.59, $11.96, and $50.55, and that is all sitting in the same location. So that's good. So we're good there. And then the last one is the value entry. And basically what it is it's showing that you've got your $50.55 going into inventory. You get your $38.59 and your $11.96, your -2s and -1s. So this is exactly what you would expect because you're going to put this inventory into things. So I'm going to go ahead and post this and go post. Do I want to post it? Yes, I do. Calculates the 2. There it is there. It's all done. So now it's been posted. So as a result, if I now go back to my items and I look at my wired headset, when I go to my item and I go item availability and I go by location, you will now find that I now have 1 right here in the warehouse. There it is there, assembly output, posted assembly. We now have that item. So that's how that works from that standpoint. So that's kind of what we're dealing with as we move forward. Now, a couple of things about this as we go through this. When we look at the related in here, we have an awful lot more items than we do inside GP from the inventory items point of view. We have the assembly order in here. There's assembly. Where is it used? What's the calculated? So if I click where used, it'll give me a list. It's not used anywhere. But if I go into if I change my item card and I go into here and I go, let's just do a lookup here. Yep. I'm just changing the item. I should have actually, there it is there. So that's a new one. Okay. Yep. Didn't mean to change that. I apologize. So when I look up my item inside here, we'll just go down to my access, my ACCS to 1 ear here, like so. When I go to related and where used, you see that it will give me a list of all the items where it is. This is something you do not get inside GP. So inside GP, I can't tell where I've used it inside my assembly orders by drilling on the item, saying, okay, well, where have I used this item? So if I've got an item called, maybe I make 10 different wired headsets, one with black, one with white, one with yellow cord. I can actually see how many of these I need to change if I have a change in this particular item. And if I drill on this, it brings me back to the wired headset, which I can then go back to my bill of materials and look at that. Calculate the assembly cost if I've got standard cost, the unit cost of the parent, calculate the unit price based on the unit price and profit. That's a matter of how you want to do that calculation from there. So if I calculate that, it will calculate that accordingly. So there's the types. So that is what's going on this thing inside here. This is the item card itself. And I can go back, and then I'm back to here. So there are many more pieces of information inside here. There are some other assembly stuff, structures and cost shares. This is more if you've got multiple levels. Now, one of the things that you can look at is that you can, as we go through these, is if I go into my bill of materials, if I'm in the wrong one, I'm in the wrong item. Okay. If I go to my wired headset, and I go to my assembly BOM, I can look at this in different locations. So I can show the BOM, I can calculate it. When I show the BOM, basically what it does is it pulls it out and shows you in an indented format so that you can export this. This is then exportable, of course, to Excel, and you can open it in Excel, and you can look at it from there. And inside here, you can open and edit this in Excel. So if you've got a lot of these, you can dump them out and then put them back in and then change the quantities and things that you want. If you need labor on top of this, the one thing that is here is that if I go to item inside here, the items that are listed here are inventory items only. They do not include service parts. So what we use is what they call a resource. And that resource, I've got myself set up. It's per hour. And then how many hours do I want to use? I want to use 0.1. And now that would add that cost to it if I was to manufacture that. You put timesheets in against the resource so that the resource would then say what he worked on. So then you can put your actuals in against your assembly BOMs. Inside GP, this one, inside GP, if I want to do that, what I end up doing is I have to take a look inside here and I have to find a service part. Now I happen to know that this 5 standard labor is a service part. So this service part that is here now, that says hour, and then I would put in my 0.1 inside here, and then that would then add a cost based on a standard cost across. It's not as flexible. There's no timesheets attached to it, and you can't assign specific individuals to it. So that becomes the piece that you need to deal with. You could create an item if you wish to make it push down, but that is kind of the difference there. And then from here, you would then post these things through. That would increase the cost of the finished good. And it would basically, what it does is it debits inventory that extra amount, but it credits an applied labor account, which you would then offset against your payroll costs. So that's kind of what we were looking at there. All right. So that does the light manufacturing from point of view from there. Do I want to save? Yes. Let's go delete. That's fine. All right. Let me see here. Questions? Do we have any questions, Katie?
All right, thank you, Don. If anybody does have any questions, please enter them into the question area in the control panel. Don't see any that have come through quite yet here, Don.
That's fine. So basically, today's was a little shorter than the 45 that we scheduled. However, the 30 minutes is more than enough time to cover off the assembly. So we can provide you some time back. If no one's got any questions, that would be fine, and we can move forward from there. So.
All right, I did just go ahead and add a link to our events page in the chat. So if you'd like to check out previous sessions, and then we will begin scheduling sessions into the new year, so you can stay up to date on that page. I also added a link where you can set your email preferences and opt into our email so that you can stay updated about those upcoming events as well as our latest blog articles. So thank you, Dawn, for the information today, and thank you everyone for
We'll
joining
stay on
us.
Katie and I will stay on the line for another couple of minutes, but if anybody's got any questions, that would be great. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yes, thank you, everyone.